So NBCC just recently implemented a new admission rule. This is with regards to their language proficiency admission regulation. And in this video, we will talk about exactly the ins and outs of all these changes within NBCC. Hello everyone, this is Ricey and this is Quest Canada. NBCC has fast become one of the most popular schools amongst international students, mainly because of two reasons. One, because it is one of the cheapest schools across Canada, and not just the Atlantic region, but across Canada. And the second one is that they are lenient with their language proficiency. As long as you're able to provide the letter that is called English as a medium of instruction, then they can waive the English proficiency requirement. Now, the first one still holds true as I record this video, but the second one, which is the language proficiency, I'm afraid, guys, they have changed this. The applicant will have to provide IELTS or Duolingo or Cantes or CELPIP or TOEFL exam, which are the English proficiency exams that are popular, and within being able to provide these exams or these test results, then the school will be able to admit the applicant. Now, it's not just the beginning and the end of this language proficiency requirement. There are instances that the school can waive the language proficiency requirements, and there are three factors that you certainly have to take, or one of these three factors. One, if your local tongue or your mother tongue is English, then you do not have to provide English proficiency exam. Second one is that if you just finished 3 years of high school at least in the last 2 years, and if you finished a post-secondary, a 1-year post-secondary school in the last 2 years, meaning you are a fresh graduate. Now, if you do not take any of these three factors, then I'm afraid you will have to take the English proficiency exam. If you want to know more about this new regulation, you will have to check this website and you will find all the necessary information. When it comes to threshold of scores with IELTS, it has to be a minimum of 6 with all of each category, which are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. With TOEFL, it has to be 80. Duolingo, it has to be 100. And Cantes, it has to be 4.5. The next question now is, which language proficiency exam makes sense for you to take? Is it IELTS? Is it CELPIP? Is it Duolingo? Etc, etc, etc. And the answer to this really depends on your situation. But in this video, let us focus with the two most prominent or popular exams to take, which are Duolingo and IELTS. The pros and the cons are that IELTS, as I have experienced myself, it's not far too easy, but people that I have spoken with who have taken Duolingo had mentioned and have certainly concluded that Duolingo is easier than IELTS. IELTS is valid for 2 years. Duolingo is also valid for 2 years. IELTS is far more expensive than Duolingo, but IELTS is accepted by IRCC and Duolingo is not, as yet, as I record this video. Now, what could be the reason? What are the logical situations that you should take IELTS and not Duolingo, and vice versa? The main sensible reason or factor that I see for you to consider IELTS is that if your program is only for 1 year, and after your program, you are absolutely certain that you will find a sponsor or a company that will provide you documentations for your PR pathway, then IELTS will make sense, because after 1 year of your program, your IELTS will still be valid for another year, and you can use this IELTS with your PR pathway application. But if your program is for 2 years, then IELTS does not necessarily make sense, because Duolingo will be the necessary or the sensible choice for you. Duolingo is far cheaper and easier than IELTS, and it is also valid for 2 years. By the time you finish your program, IELTS and Duolingo would have been no more valid. So, and Duolingo actually, if you compare it to TOEFL, Duolingo is cheaper than both IELTS and TOEFL as well. Now, if you are an aspiring international student and NBCC is at the top of your list of school choices, but you are heartbroken because of this new language proficiency requirement, do not despair, because NBCC really is not the only cheap school here in the Atlantic or across Canada. There are other schools that are cheap as well and still do not require language proficiency exam. If you want to know more about these schools, get in contact with me. That's info@questcanadaca.com. The school have set a deadline for them to receive the English proficiency exam for every single intake, and the deadline are this. For September intake, you must submit by July 15th. January intake, you must submit by November 15th. And April intake, you must submit by March 1st. This is just an example on how things can change. Admission regulations can change. IRCC regulations can change in a snap of a finger. Whether IRCC will still be open to accepting international students in the next few years, we do not know. Whether they will change regulations in the next few years, we do not know. Whether they will strict a certain age on their visa application or study permit application, we do not know really. Right now, the situation is that IRCC is lenient. And it's absolutely, I highly recommend you guys to take advantage of this. There are no age limitation. There are no education limitation. As long as you are able to prove that, one, you are financially capable, two, you certainly have the legitimacy to come and study here to improve yourself, your education, and your professional background, then you have got a chance to be an international student in Canada. Strike the iron while it is hot, because things can change and we do not know when things may change. If you are an aspiring international student and you want to know how to jumpstart your journey, visit my website, questcanadaca.com, and hopefully this website is able to